Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Coffman. Welcome to our 100th episode of the Torah portion of the week. That's right, we hit number 100. We are holding by Parshas Haazinu. Parshas Haazinu will be after Rosh Hashanah this coming Shabbos. Rosh Hashanah is Wednesday night to Thursday night to Friday night. Shabbos, we'll read Parshas Haazinu. Parshas Haazinu is a song of Moshe where he starts off by saying, "Give ear, O heavens, I will speak. May the earth hear the words of my mouth." He calls out heaven and earth to give testimony when he starts to blast the Jewish people. And then he speaks about God's kindness to Jewish people, problem of Jewish people going down in spirituality, God's wrath, etc. A number of things we could speak about here. But one thing I want to hit here, it says, chapter 32, verse 2, may my teaching drop like the rain, may my utterance flow like the dew, like storm winds upon vegetation, like raindrops upon a blade of grass. So you see that he says his teaching should be like the rain, and it should flow like dew, like storm winds upon vegetation. What does that mean? What does that mean exactly? What's it referring to? Says Mori Rabbi, Rav Agon Ramoj Shlita may be well, says in Tam Vadas, in his book on Chumash, he says this verse describes two types of people, and the way that they observe Torah, and the way that they keep it. So he says the first type of person keeps Torah with great desire, great joy. He accepts upon himself the yoke, the yoke of Torah, because let's call a spade a spade. Torah is hard to learn, right? It's certainly not easy. A lot of it doesn't necessarily make so much sense to us. It's not it's not something that necessarily speaks to us in many ways, because it's very different than the way we would think. Nonetheless, it takes on the yoke of Torah, of learning Torah, and the more he learns, the more he hears. He wants to hear more, he wants to learn, he wants to grow, etc. He gets tremendous joy, gets tremendous benefits from it, and from him, it's like it says, like it's gonna flow, like the rain comes, it's gonna flow. So again, he's happy, he enjoys it, he gets benefits, and it's going to be continuous. So just like when the rain comes, it brings tremendous blessing. It brings tremendous blessing because waters the ground, keeps vegetation alive, etc. Allows things to grow. So why shouldn't we be happy, right? If vegetation grows and we have food, right? If God forbid there's no rain, right? There'll be famine, so that won't be good because we'll all be hungry. But rain comes, it brings things back to life, brings the earth back to life. So that's one type of person, who enjoys, gets benefits, etc. from Torah. He brings down the second type of person. He says the second type of person isn't prepared to have the blessing of learning Torah. He doesn't, get so much benefit. He doesn't necessarily see, not only doesn't he see the benefit, but doesn't see how it necessarily relates to us, right? How many people out there will say, how many Jews will say, Torah just doesn't speak to me, right? So I don't have a connection to it. They'll be honest, they'll think it's archaic, it's this, it's that, but to them it doesn't speak to them, right? So he says he has little understanding, and that's why it's like over here, the Torah says that it's going to come, that the rain, may flow like the dew, and like raindrops, right? It might fall like raindrops. So what happens when raindrops fall? So it goes drip, drip, drip. It's not like a continuous flow. It's a drip. So he says people like that only understand Torah, very little, because that's all they get. They get the drips. They get the drips, so to speak. So they don't enjoy it. They don't get the flow. They don't get this like water flow like this other person. And they have difficulty. It's they don't get enjoyment. They don't get benefit. They certainly don't get benefit from it. and it's just dripping. So then my Rabbi brings down a medrash, as Rashi brings it down, that when it comes to dew, when the dew comes, everyone's happy, and when the rain comes, not everybody is happy. There are some people that are sad. The people that are sad are the ones who have to work in the rain or have to be outside in the rain. Anyone that's ever been outside in the rain, it's no fun because you get wet. Even though I try to explain to people that, if you knew how to walk in between the drops, you wouldn't get so wet. They're like, obviously you don't know how to do it because you're soaking wet. Well, it's a good point. Nonetheless, somebody might not be for the rain. Let's say someone had a pit of wine. Right? If they had a whole pit of wine and it rains, well, guess what? Water's going to get into the wine, it's going to ruin it. Now, sometimes, if a person learns Torah, when they learn Torah, they're not going to get blessing from it. For example, he says somebody who teaches a student that's not fitting to be a student, in other words, they're teaching someone that's going to use this knowledge for terrible things, or a person learns Torah under someone who's not similar to an angel. Right? The Talmud says a person can only learn under a rabbi if he's considered in your eyes like an angel. If he's not an angel, you can't learn from him. Now, it doesn't mean he's perfect by any stretch. Everyone has, certainly everybody has flaws and everyone makes mistakes. But in your eyes, you have to look at this person like an angel. If you don't look at him like an angel, then you can't learn from him. So what happens is that the Torah is supposed to be learning, either teaching someone, God forbid it's not proper, or learning from someone that's not proper. The Torah itself turns into a klala, turns into a curse. God forbid it can be deadly. Because if a person is not learning for the right reason or learning from the right people, then the Torah's learning is skewed. And if it's skewed, that is gonna that's certainly going to be bad. Whether you're learning from someone like that, whether a person's teaching somebody like that, they're going to misinterpret things. They're going to give it over in a bad way, and that's going to be a terrible thing. So let's look a little more in depth at these two type of people. So the first person is someone who takes on the yoke, right? He takes on the yoke of Torah. Now we'll all agree, or you could disagree, but I think everyone would agree that the Torah is not a simple thing to learn. The Torah itself is complicated, a lot of details, and there are a lot of things that do not go according to our own understanding. Even if there are things that are according to our own understanding, there are a myriad of details that make it incredibly hard to fathom. Nonetheless, God gives the Torah to Jewish people. Jewish people say, Na'aseh v'nishma. They say, we will hear and then we will do. So, Jewish people say it doesn't matter what's written. What's written in it. God, you have a track record. We will take you at your word. Whatever it says, we will do. So you have people out there that regardless of whatever their situation is, they love learning Torah. They enjoy it. They get benefit. They get merit, for learning it. So they take it on, certainly as a yoke. But for them, that's their life. They spend, a certain amount of the day, learning, etc. But they enjoy it. They, enjoy every aspect of it. And for them, they're going to get benefit. They'll get merit. It's a great thing. So these type of people who are living inspired, most likely, I can't imagine the other way. That, unless they're only doing it for intellectual, an intellectual exercise. If they're doing it, because they love it and they enjoy it, the reason is because they get tremendous benefit while learning it. They saw, the Talmud click. They saw, understood the commentaries in whatever way, and it changed. It changed something in them. And it gave them the fervor to continue, even when it was hard, even when it seemed unfathomable, etc. But they kept pecking away. They kept pecking and pecking and pecking, and they got tremendous enjoyment from it and tremendous benefits. So for them, they put themselves into Torah, and Torah changed them. Torah totally transform them. Now you take a look at the second category. In the second category, people is like someone being outside in the rain. You don't enjoy when it rains. Someone, let's say, they have a family issue, learning disability, or whatever, and they didn't get the true enjoyment of Torah, like the first guy. For them, it was hard. It was hard all the way through. The stories were hard. Language was hard. Understanding what was going on was hard. The whole thing was, it was like a chore. It was just, they didn't enjoy it. And, they certainly weren't at the top of the class. And they just had they had no pure enjoyment. So these type of people, Torah is going to be, for them, is almost going to be like a death sentence. So I think it's clear. I think it's clear as day that these people who didn't enjoy Torah, the main reason, there could be a number of reasons why they didn't enjoy it. But I think the main reason why they have this antagonism to Torah, why it's considered to them like a death sentence, and why it's like a drip, because they don't get so much out of it, it's because they never saw the sweetness of Torah. They never understood something fully to where they could put the pieces together and see it click and say, this is what Torah is, this is tremendous, right? Every, once in a while, a person may have this aha moment. And in this aha moment, they don't just go, What they see how the Torah works. They see, how it's put together. And from that, going from the beginning to the end and how it comes out, that gives them tremendous enjoyment. Which if it's done right, that should definitely be the case. So, so someone who looks at Torah and scoffs at it, or doesn't want to hold by it, or whatever, even if they grew up, as an Orthodox Jew, so now basically we're saying they've gone sour. So probably the main reason why they've gone sour is because they didn't have what the first person had. They didn't have the enjoyment, the merit of learning Torah. So for them it was hard, and it was always hard, and they had a hard time understanding and all that. So for them it wasn't so fun, right? It definitely wasn't so fun. And there are people out there, plenty of people out there that just didn't have that success, or didn't want to put in the effort to try. Maybe they got beaten down by the Rabbi or by their peers, and were told, what a stupid idea, how could you think such a thing? Or, maybe they were put down in some way where they said, fine, they think I'm this. When I'm able to, I'm going to leave the whole thing. Right? I'm not even going to bother, keeping anything. That'll be their rebellion. But, they may have a legitimate cause, why this has happened. Right? We're not, no one goes sour for no reason. The cause could be absolutely legit. But when we think about it, it doesn't really matter what the cause is. Right? It matters what my obligation to God is. People can have terrible lives. People can grow up in horrific conditions. Parents can destroy them. Teachers can destroy them. Whatever the case is, but they could use that as an excuse and say, because this teacher did this. And again, it could be a horrific thing, what they've done. Maybe they embarrassed them in public or whatever, and they just never get over it, right? It's something that haunts them, on a regular basis, and they just, they're just itching to get out because, they never got enjoyment. They got slammed, right? They got slammed a lot for it. It could be, the people had deep questions that, the teacher saw it, they're trying to push the boundaries. The person's really a heretic. We got to throw him out. We got to put him down. And the person has a legitimate question, right? He's not trying to be a heretic, right? He wants to understand, let's say, certain things about creation, and in science, and how does science fit in, or it doesn't fit in, or whatever. He's not trying to be a heretic. He's not trying to say science is right, Torah is wrong. Right? He wants an answer. He wants a legitimate answer. How does Age of the Universe and Torah of Genesis chapter 1 fit in? Or doesn't it fit in? Is it a contradiction? right? That's a legitimate, that's a legitimate question. I have to see, right? A teacher has to have eyes in the back of his head, and the side, and the front as well. He has to know where the question's coming from. Is it coming because, the kid is actually a heretic and he wants to influence others in a negative way? Or is it coming from a genuine, it's a genuine question, and he wants to know, how does it fit in? Kid might be into science, or whatever the case is, and he wants to know, that, does this fit into science? Does the Torah fit into science? Or not? So some people say, Torah, you can't have it, what are you thinking about, science? Of course, even if science doesn't fit in, it doesn't matter, Torah's always right, and you put the kid down and you squelch the question and that's it. But the kid wanted an answer. He didn't want to just say, oh, poo-poo, it's terrible, don't look at these other things, etc. He wanted an answer. Does it correspond? Does it work or it doesn't work? Right? Does science fit in or it doesn't? He wasn't doing it to be a heretic. So, today people are terrified. Someone asks, a question like that, so now you have to think, why is he asking the question? You have to see where the question is coming from. As I've heard from many great rabbis, that, someone asks the question, first of all, you have to see if it's an antagonistic way. If they're doing it just trying to show you up or whatever, make you look bad. Or are they doing it because they're ignorant and they have a legitimate question? Or either they're not ignorant, but they want to know, the scientific aspects of it. They're curious about it, not to be a heretic. So, some teachers will shy away from this and just say, like, you're not allowed to ask questions. That question you can't ask. So again, the question is going to be, how is it asked? Is it asked in a way where we can assume it's a legitimate question and that other kids probably want to hear the answer as well? Or are they just asking it to waste time in order to make the teacher fidget? Right? Could be sometimes kids like to do that also and get off track. So, first thing is, the person has to analyze where the question is coming from. If it's coming from a safe place, then you don't have to worry. It's not about this kid being a heretic. Right? They explain it, explain the answer to them, at their level. If you don't know the answer, then you say, listen, it's a good question, I'm not sure. Let me look around, let me see, who speaks about it, and I'll get back to you. Some people just yell and scream, they can't ask that question, what do you, how could you question God, and this and that, we don't care. Science or not, we only go by the Torah. So you're pushing them off, basically saying there is no answer. That's not what a kid wants to hear. Right? If you don't know, and you're not sure, say, I don't know. And say, I have to go look it up, I'll get back to you, etc. I look at the appropriate sources. But don't just blow off the question. Because the kid's going to know if you blow off the question. And if he thinks you're blowing off the question, then he'll say, see, Judaism doesn't have any answers. Now again, this is almost an innocent conversation. Right? Even if it's in front of the whole class. It still, could be viewed as an innocent question. The question is where it's coming from. So I can understand teachers may not want to talk about it in public. I can understand, it may confuse a lot of people. That's for sure. I can understand they have certain ground to cover in what they're doing. So therefore, they don't want to get, they don't want to get bogged down. And the other thing is they want to make sure that this kid's not going to have a negative effect on anybody else, which definitely can happen. So it's something, that the teacher's going to have to monitor. And if he doesn't know what he's doing or he can't answer these type of questions, you should go to people who can. Right? He should ask people who know the answers to these questions. Okay, what's the answer? How do I give it over? Right? In a proper way. Or bring in, a guest speaker, a guest rabbi, speak about it. It's a hot topic, but it's a topic that I think is important enough to be addressed. That, the kids should see that there's an answer. You're not just blowing them off. Because that is the worst thing that a kid could feel, is that he asks the question, he thinks it's a legitimate question, and a parent, a teacher, whoever blows it off. Now it depends what age they are, what age there are as well. But if they just blow it off, the kid's gonna feel it. The kid is definitely going to, kid's gonna sense it. He's gonna sense it. So, if kids do have questions, and it sounds like a heretical question, you have to see where it's coming from before, you jump up and down, and before you want to get rid of this kid and say it's going to be a terrible influence on everybody else, and all this and all that, and you want to knock him out before he does any, before he does any real damage. So that is how a person, the Torah can be a curse for them. As the Medrash says, that person who learns under somebody or teaches somebody that's not fitting to be their student, so that's going to be bad for the sole reason that this student is going to take things out of context, certainly misquote you, and certainly misquote the Torah, come up with their own ideas. That's certainly bad, right? That is certainly bad. Having a teacher that teaches who's bad. Oh, we could go on this for days. This is unfortunately not uncommon, and that is if someone's a reform or conservative rabbi, so most people will know to stay away from them because their knowledge is going to be limited. It's not coming from a Torah perspective. Certainly not coming from the perspective that God wrote the Torah and passed it down to Moshe, right? And there's an oral tradition, right? They're not going to be interested. They're not going to be interested in that. So at least we understand. We understand where they're coming from. So we're not going to get so mixed up. They're not going to really have anything to offer, and they're not going to mess us up, change our philosophers, get us to be, God forbid, reform or conservative Jews. So there's another side, though, that is much more serious, and that is take somebody, let's say, who's an Orthodox rabbi. Now, if they're an Orthodox rabbi, first thing you want to know is who they learned by, right? Do they actually have rabbinic supervision? But who did they learn by? And who are they in connection with today? In other words, if they have a question, they're not sure of the answer, who do they go to? Right? That's also, extremely important. I met somebody years ago that has been working with Bali Tshuva Jews that didn't know anything about Judaism, came back to Judaism being an Orthodox Jew, right? Working with Bali Tshuva and converts, for many years. Person has a resume, tremendous resume, yay long. There's only one problem. One major thing glaring that is missing. And that is, who do they ask their questions to when they don't know an answer? They go to Rabbi Dr. Google, or maybe Dr. Rabbi Google, depending how you want to say it. Or do they have somebody that they go to? Right? Do they have a Rav that they go to? They can ask their questions to, because they're certainly not perfect, by any stretch. So they have to have someone to bounce ideas off of, whatever, because they themselves are biased, and therefore they don't want to be biased in such a case, and therefore they'll go somewhere else. So that is a major criteria besides the ordination itself. who this rabbi, goes to for advice, which is pretty important. So you can also have rabbis that aren't fitting, and let's just say they'll come from a certain movement, even if they're Orthodox, right? They got this left wing movement, called open Orthodoxy, right? I guess it's open-minded until your brains fall on the floor. But they have people there that have serious philosophical issues with something said in the Torah, right? You take the binding of Isaac, right? They want to claim that, God and Abraham failed the test, etc. I mean, there are a lot of statements that are made are really not within Torah perspective, right? They are definitely not within Torah perspective. So, question why they call themselves Orthodox, is a good question. But there are a lot of statements, that are made that are, well, not only wrong, but tremendously misleading also, right? Because you want to say, you want to call yourself Orthodox, how can you say that Abraham and God failed the binding of Isaac? Right? Even on a philosophical level. Abraham comes on the scene, tells the world that there's one God, everyone's carrying around their pocket God. Here's Bob, don't leave home without him. So everyone's carrying their pocket God. And he says, no, God created the world, there's order. And they said, how do you know? I said, because I looked in the world and I saw it. So all these idol worshippers say, well, did he ever speak to you? Did he ever come in contact with you? He said, no, but, I know he exists. I figured it out that he exists and what he wants from us. They're like, yeah, good luck, I'll take Bob. I'll take Bob home with me. Bob, Bob's never going to answer back. Certainly not answer something, so stupid, etc. That being the case, we have to understand that, if that's true, and Abraham's the father of all nations, and he had 10 trials, and everyone agrees he passed all the trials, right? Even the last one, the Ramban says that had he not passed it or taken it, he wouldn't have been as great as he was. He was 9 for 9. The Ramban says he still had potential to reach, and that potential to reach, he could have done by the binding of Isaac. Now, I would say, why don't you just cut him some slack? God knows what he's going to do in the future, so just give him credit as if he did it. Right? So the answer is that God's not going to give a person credit unless he did it. If he did it, fine. If he didn't do it, that's it. Right? You didn't do it. Period. So, it's very important. It's very important to understand that we hold he passed all the tests. The greatest test of all was the last one. Right? The binding of Isaac, because God told him his offspring are going to go through Isaac. Right? The Torah is going to go through him. It's going to go through his son, Yaakov, until it goes to the Jewish people. All that being true, then this was a tremendous test because God could come to him and say, okay, I want you to bring him up, and I want you to bring him up as a sacrifice. Well, what about what you said before? What about this covenant? It's supposed to be made with Isaac. Yeah, don't worry about it, but this is what you have to do. So if he kills him, Jewish history changes. World history changes. So to say that he failed, and God failed the binding of Isaac is heresy. The Ramban says that he not gone through the test and not passed it, he wouldn't have been as great as he was. He was already great. Why didn't God just give him credit? Why didn't he just say, okay, fine, you don't have to do it, but if I would ask you to do it, you would do it? And he said, yeah, fine, don't make him do it. If he doesn't make him do it, give him credit. God says, as the Ramban tells us, can't give him credit. He didn't do it. But God will say, how can I give him credit for something he didn't do? So, this is important. This is important to understand, because unreached potential, we learned from Avram, unreached potential is unreached if you don't actualize it. Right? If you don't actualize it, then that's it. Right? It doesn't come back. I mean, in theory, it could. You have to, a person has to work at it tremendously, but at the end of the day, it's all about what I do, not about what I think. Potential is actualizing it. It's not about, what in theory a person's going to do. Judaism is big into action. So a person has to do something and show, right? They have to show what they're doing. They have to show what level they're on, even if God knows and God understands what that level is. He's not going to give him credit if he didn't do it, because he didn't do it. Like someone comes to my Rabbi after 9/11, calls him up and says, I was supposed to be in the World Trade Center. When it got hit, I want to make a Sudas Hodah, I want to bench Gomel, I want to make a Thanksgiving meal, and I want to say this Thanksgiving blessing, for saving me during this time. So, it's a blessing out of gratitude. So, therefore, what happens is, he's doing all this. He's doing all this to reach his potential. So Rabbi said, let's get back to the story about the World Trade Center. So Rabbi says, were you there? He says, no. He said, but I should have been there. So again, Rabbi said, were you there? He said, no. So he said, then you can't make the blessing. Right? You can't make the blessing because you weren't there. It doesn't matter what you were supposed to do. It doesn't matter, something changed or this or that. It's all irrelevant. If you weren't there, you can't make the blessing. It's not based on what I could have done. It's based on, what happened. So by Abraham, I would have said, give him credit. He's 9 for 9. Sanctified God's name all over the place. Give him credit for what what he would do. And the answer is, the Ramban says you can't do that. The reason you can't do that is because unreached potential is unreached potential. If you haven't done it, you can't say, okay, check for 10 things. You didn't do it. That's it. If he doesn't do it, he doesn't do it. But that 10th test, says the Ramban, is what solidified his legacy. Is what really made Abraham Abraham. The other 9 were good. This one solidified everything. So, if you're an Orthodox rabbi, what do you do with this Ramban? How do you say he missed the boat? And God missed the boat, God forbid. On the binding of Isaac. Where do you see that in Torah? I mean, doesn't that sound like something a Reform or conservative Jew would say? Most likely. An Orthodox Jew would say such a thing? That's more dangerous. Much, much more dangerous. You say, because he's a free thinker? No, because he's outside the parameters of what Torah is. Who are you to decide what the parameters are? I'm not. You're right. I'm not one to judge. Let other bigger people than me do that. But they've set guidelines. They set guidelines, what's in Torah, what's within Torah, and what's not. So rabbis 2,000 years ago set those guidelines. I'm not interfering. But if they don't fit those guidelines, then I'll be the first one to say it doesn't fit. They're outside the camp. Problem is, they call themselves Orthodox. They're even rabbis of Orthodox synagogues. This is a danger. It's a danger because, Rabbi points out, the Torah can be a Sama Mavis. It can really be death, right? A death potion, so to speak, because you learn from somebody who's turning the Torah into a pretzel, even if it's based on Torah. He's doing it in a way where it takes himself out of Torah. Again, a Reform or conservative rabbi, we're not worried. We know who they are. We know what they stand for. If he's Orthodox, we also know what he stands for. And what he believes in, and what he should believe in. It's not a question of being as open-minded until your brains fall on the floor. That's not the question. There's a lot of information, and there's a lot of knowledge that's out there, that certainly we have to learn. We're not just saying, because they want to be more left-wing, we're going to throw the book at them. This is not about being more left-wing. This is about being off the charts. This is about not being within the camp at all. That's different. You want to rely on a lenient opinion that people don't normally rely on, except in certain situations, but you want to rely on it on the outset? We can have a discussion. Right? It's not the norm. You're not necessarily outside the camp 100%. You want to tell me, though, that Moses wasn't a good leader, God forbid, or Abraham failed the test, failed the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, and so did God, you're not in the camp anymore. Right? You cook your heels 3 times, Toto, you're not going to be in Kansas. You're out. You were going to be out. You might say, well, that's a harsh thing. So over here, people like that are dangerous. So all I'm saying is that if you don't have a teacher that's similar to an angel, this person is not similar to an angel. He's giving his own spin on things that are outside of Torah. So that being said, people say, oh, it's all about interpretation. Why are you shooting them down? Right? The rabbis say this, let him have his opinion. So let him have his opinion. Just let it be within Torah. Let it be within certain guidelines. And if it's not within certain guidelines, could care less what his opinion is. Doesn't have any relevancy for me. So I'm also very big in saying, I don't like labels. Right? He's modern Orthodox, he's less modern Orthodox, he's ultra-Orthodox. Right? Labels don't mean anything. It just puts us in a box. That's all it does. It just, clarifies, Jews that don't believe Torah comes from God. They're either conservative or reform. Right? So it can't be Orthodox. Right? So we separate people into different groups based on what they believe. Now again, for better or for worse, that's what we do. So, you have to look at the source where it's coming from. Again, let's just make clear. If a reform or conservative rabbi is going to say, well, I'm not sure that the X has ever happened. Right? We can take mitzvahs out of the Torah. They don't have relevancy, today. We can just take it out of the Torah. Okay, you know where they stand. An Orthodox rabbi, you know where he's going to stand. Torah's from heaven, got to keep all the mitzvahs, as much as we can. All right, certain things you can't do because we don't have a temple, all right? But you're not chucking out mitzvahs. No, it's interpretation, do what you want. It's the way the rabbis interpreted what the Torah is. That is our oral tradition that was given at the same time. Without going into the whole long thing about oral tradition, that's what we have and that's what works. Probably about 96, 97% of the time. So I'll take that over fantasy. But be that as it may, somebody who's not fitting to teach, you definitely can't learn from them. And definitely you're going to get messed up by what they teach you. Again, aren't there 70 faces to the Torah? Aren't there different ways I can come to Torah? Sure. But again, those 70 faces are within one group. They're within certain parameters. You go outside those parameters, that's not the 71st idea. Right? That's not the 71st face. Because that's not Torah anymore. You cannot, as I always say, you cannot turn the Torah into a pretzel. It's not made in my own image. First you look at the verse. Then you see what the commentaries say. Then, or even better, you think about what the verse means. Think about it to yourself, what it means, what you would think it means. Then you see what the commentaries say. Right? That'll be a big eye-opener. Definitely a big eye-opener for people. So if I understand the sources, and I go through the sources, I understand what the practical laws are. Okay, but you're within certain parameters. So again, that's much more dangerous if a person teaches somebody that's not fitting to be taught. So you're giving them information, they're going to use it for terrible things. It's also bad. So a person has to be careful who they teach, and a person has to be careful, certainly, who they learn from. And a person can get mixed up ideas by learning from wrong people. People can have the best intentions, but at the end of the day, if they're messed up and they're not clear, and they're not holding by what they need to be holding by, then, according to everybody, it's going to be bad. That's certainly going to be bad. So over here, Rabbi says that you could have somebody where the rain is not good for them, or, is not good in general, and the Torah is not good. How can the Torah not be good? The Torah is only goodness. God only wants to give His goodness. How can it not be good? It could not be good for a very simple reason, because the person teaching them shouldn't be teaching others. bottom line, he's not within the confines of being an Orthodox Jew. Or he's teaching something that's controversial and he's got no one to back him, right? That can certainly, that can certainly happen, right? The person's got his own ideas. No rabbinical authority worth anything backs them, and they still want to put out their ideas as the word of God. It's also a problem, right? You can't call people out on something you came up with that no one else holds of. It's called gaiva. It's called being conceited. But that's a whole different, discussion. So we gotta be careful who we teach. We gotta be careful who we learn from. So somebody like this, doesn't see the value of Torah, could learn from bad people. Could see terrible things, not know how to make heads or tails, out of it. Or could have a bad experience in Torah, meaning that, he never enjoyed it. It was too hard. You just found it too hard, and all the discussions and what and why, and picayune differences, in their opinion and what it applies to, right? How it's going to interpret, how it's going to differentiate between what we hold in the end according to halacha, or it is going to hold, it's not going to hold. Right? It's a whole discussion. It's a whole discussion. It's a complicated process. But you see, you can look at Torah one of two ways. It's like either you love it, you're into it, you want to learn more, and the more you hear, the more you enjoy, and the more benefit that you're going to get. Or you look at it as, like, I can't stand it, it's too hard, it's too enclosed, I need my freedom, I need to get out, because they didn't enjoy. They never got the enjoyment and the sweetness, of what Torah is. It could be, the things that they were told over and over again is doom and gloom. It's all forbidden and you can't do this. And, there are plenty of things that are forbidden, but we have to give kids an outlet also, to be able to, take a break and, maybe kick a soccer ball, right? Like, kick a soccer ball or something. Not talking about organized sports, but let them run around or, let them get out. A kid is not meant, to sit down for 6-8 hours a day and not move. Right? There has to be, a balance. Obviously, there has to be a balance. But, if it's rammed down their throats, and not given over in a way, A, that they can understand, but B, that they can get a geschmack, they can enjoy it. They can, have tremendous fun learning it, even if it's hard. So, they're not going to enjoy it. And the second they have a chance to get away from it, that's exactly what they're going to do. Again, it could be from learning disabilities, it could be from problems in the house, it could be any number of reasons, why this is. But I think the single fundamental thing, the main issue is they never really got enjoyment in the first place. And because they weren't encouraged or whatever, and never got this enjoyment, so this made them really hate Torah. Because at the end of the day, it's hard. It doesn't go according to our own knowledge. We have to work very hard putting ourselves into what the Torah says, not the other way around. The Torah is universal, but it doesn't think like the way we would normally think. It doesn't act the way we would normally act. So therefore, we have to work tremendously hard, A, to retain it, and B, to learn it properly at a proper level, and get enjoyment from it, not just doing it like a robot or doing it based on my own intellectual advancement. A person can get challenged intellectually, that's great. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't affect your life, that's not Torah. That's just like learning another discipline. The Torah has to be something that changes you, right? That forms who we are, gets us the way to think, the way we need to think, like a Jew needs to think. That's the first case, right? That's the first case of someone who loves Torah, loves listening to Torah, loves going to classes, loves being inspired, even if it's hard, because he's into it. His peers are into it. And he gets tremendous enjoyment, tremendous benefit. Second case, he doesn't get benefit at all. It drips. Drip, drip, drip. It drips. So the fact that it drips, he doesn't enjoy it. It gets a little bit, very small amount, another very small amount. Doesn't add up to very much. If he's learning good, then it's like a flow. It's like a flow of water. If not, it's like drip, 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 and that's that's it. So it's interesting. Definitely an interesting way, of looking at this verse, comparing it to dew, comparing it to rain, in these two types of people, and how they learn. So, someone who never got enjoyment out of it, keep in mind the way he might learn is like he's learning like any other academic subject. Intellectual stimulating, yes, maybe no. But at the end, it's like another subject. If it's like another subject, it doesn't change them. It means it doesn't have an effect on their life. Torah is supposed to change us. Torah is supposed to make us into different people. The difference between Jews and non-Jews, the fact that Jews learn Torah. Right? And DNA and everything else has nothing to do with anything. We're not saying we're superior, even though we're the chosen nation. Chosen means you have more obligation. Doesn't mean we're better. And if a Jew doesn't learn Torah, it's no different than a non-Jew. Can act just as bad, just as bad as a non-Jew does. What differentiates is Torah has the ability to change a person. So if a person taps in and does what he's supposed to do, all things being equal, it will transform them. But that's the only thing that can do that. If you look at Torah as an academic subject, then that's all it's going to be. It's not going to be anything more than that. It'll never be anything more than that. It'll be mental gymnastics. You'll get a certain amount, a benefit from that, but, that's it. It's not what we call the spirituality of Torah, or the deepness, the pneumius, the inwardness of Torah. That's not what they're getting. They're getting Torah like another subject. Torah, mathematics, history, whatever. It's another discipline. So if a person looks at Torah as another discipline, so that's called the potion of death, because you're using Torah for the wrong reason, and it can have myriad effects. Not just on you, but certainly on others around you, certainly on family, etc. So, a person has to realize where these things come from, where they stem from, and either the positive or negative effect that we can take from this. So I want to remind people that I have a course that I made. It's called Discovery of Biblical Path. Anybody came out of Christianity or idolatry that don't know which way to go. They want to be a Noahide or they want to convert. So I have information about conversion, what it takes to convert. I go through a few things, that Jews do, and go through the holidays and etc. I also go through what it means to be a Noahide, how to find a rabbi, find a community, for both, and how family may affect this decision. I have 7 interviews of people that either in the process of conversion finished or not, or in the process of conversion haven't finished, and Noahides as well. I give a intro to Kabbalah class every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock New York time. We're finishing up the book Derech Hashem, the Way of God. It speaks about reincarnation, why God created the world, the purpose of man, purpose of the nations, divine providence. We're just finished up mystical aspects of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We're going to speak about the everyday and about making blessings, etc. That's 9 o'clock New York time. It has nothing to do with conversion. Usually twice a week, I have a question and answer session on Tuesday, 10 in the morning, Thursday at 9 o'clock at night. This week won't be a class Thursday night because it is Rosh Hashanah. I also have a Sunday morning class on Torah portion of the week. We're holding by the book of Exodus chapter 38. So we're working our way through the end of the book of Exodus, speaking about the building of the Mishkan. That anybody can come to, whether they want to convert or not, or be a Noahide, doesn't matter. It's open to everybody. So as I mentioned, I give conversion class, or I didn't mention, I'll mention now. I give conversion classes. I give Noahide classes. You can take a look at my Facebook fan page, Beyond Orthodox Conversion, on Facebook, or Beyond Noahide. I also have a blog, orthodoxconversion.com. And anyone wants to contact me can contact me at rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. I'm going to wish everyone a meaningful, happy, healthy New Year. However you're gonna celebrate it, you should only have good things. Etc., from the new year. And I want to wish everyone a great Shabbos.